Lots of big breaking news is coming out, and they are warning us. They are giving us huge warnings on mainstream news. Top officials are coming out, and we're getting over 100 million people cumulatively in all these different states that are at warning right now. All right. And they need to be getting prepared for rolling blackout situations. That's what's coming next. And we're getting even more warnings that this is happening. And the head of the Texas utility commissioner, all right, he's even coming out and saying that blackouts are coming to Texas. All these states are going to get hit. California, the Carolinas, Wyoming, all right, a bunch more states are at risk right now of massive grid failures this summer. And they're also giving us more EMP warnings as well. We had a EMP situation take out radio communications just a couple days ago, and this was from the sun. And we know that there are also artificial EMP situations as well. So we're going to dive into all this stuff, and this is why I've been on such high alert, high urgency, and we made the dive, right? We dove in, and we are now on 10 acres out here, totally off grid. We are building our own off grid property. We're living in our travel trailer right now, and we're off grid. We're going to build our septic, get our well, water tanks in the meantime, gardens, all these things are in the works. We already have seeds planted because there should be a sense of urgency for you right now. I am feeling it. I've been feeling it for months. I've been feeling it just build up. I've always felt urgency, but the past few months, it really feels like things are escalating. The financial system is collapsing. AI is being unleashed on us. And they're even warning that AI is being unleashed to make these cyber attacks even worse. Okay, I was talking about this with my wife, and we'll get to these warnings in just a second because these are huge warnings. But I was talking about this with my wife, how AI could essentially take over the grid or critical infrastructure. They could lock us out of it and create their own language on top of it that we can't even decipher or comprehend. All right, AI could start creating languages that only AI itself understands and start writing very advanced code and coding languages that nobody's ever seen before, and put these ransomware attacks on our critical infrastructure, on our grid, on our water supply. Remember the Colonial Pipeline last year, or it wasn't last year, it was in 2021 now, a couple years ago now, the Colonial Pipeline hack down in the southeast US. These things are all on the table, and now they're warning our grid could collapse as well, just from its own weight, just from not being able to produce enough electricity. This is why we are saying we are going off grid. We don't want to be subject to this. Right now, we are just living off a generator. All right, I'll show my generator here. You can see I put a little video here of our generator, and this is enough for us to survive a 30 amp travel trailer. And we are going to get solar as well, but I don't want to be subject to the grid. All right, and we're working on getting solar very soon and having gas reserves as well. It's good to have both systems. It's good to have all three if you can have it, but we can't even get utilities out here, so we are going to be completely off the grid. And you should get a generator too, just as a backup. I remember countless hurricanes in Florida in the early 2000s, and a generator being essential there in Florida because the power would go out constantly, and sometimes the power would go out for weeks at a time. I've had situations where it was out for almost a month going on, and our neighbors across the street even had their power restored a couple weeks before us. So these things could happen anytime, anywhere, and you should be prepared. So let's get into these warnings that these top officials are giving for multiple states. Over 100 million people, they are warning about this, and it's getting real. All right, and these warnings, they're even saying this, some of these officials, they're saying these warnings are getting more extreme and they're becoming more dangerous because the grid could collapse at its hottest moment or coldest moment. We already saw rolling blackouts in North Carolina, the Carolinas, Tennessee area over Christmas, this Christmas, there was rolling blackouts in Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, this region. There was rolling blackouts on Christmas Day and Christmas Eve. Just 5-6 months ago, this happened. All right. So these things could definitely happen in the summer, and they could be even more dangerous in the summer. So let's get into what the Texas Utility Commission chair is warning. So they're warning that the grid is at risk of summer outages and pushes for gas-fueled power. This is coming out of ABC News. So Texas Utility Commissioner chair warns grid at risk of summer outages. So you need to be getting prepared. We've seen massive grid collapse scenarios in Texas before in the middle of the winter when these wind turbines froze up. Okay, we could see gaps in the electricity in Texas and multiple other states we're going to get to as well in just a second that are under these emergency warnings that are coming this summer. Summer's coming on quick. It's around 85 degrees out here. I have my windows open. This window's open here because it is hot out. All right. And it's going to keep getting hotter. That's my point here. We are just in the beginning of summer now. But you can see here, quote, "The Texas grid faces a new reality." That's what Lake said Wednesday. Quote, "Data shows for the first time that the peak demand for electricity this summer will exceed the amount we can generate from on-demand dispatchable power." So he's saying that the peak demand this summer is going to outpace, will exceed the amount we can generate from on-demand dispatchable power. And they've been closing down power plants all over the place, specifically coal power plants they have been targeting, but even hydroelectric dams have been being destroyed all over the country. Like in California, they've been destroying hydroelectric dams to open up, to allow certain fish species and things like this to flow through the dams. Instead of building an elevator, fish elevator for them, they just destroyed the dam that is generating power. And now California is one of the states being warned that they are under this emergency blackout situation coming this summer. All right. So this is specifically for Texas. The Texas commissioner is coming out and saying this, and they're saying it will exceed what they can generate on demand. This is why you need to have your own generator, your own power generation. A lot of people don't realize a major chunk of your electricity that comes to your house is produced and generated from massive diesel generators. Diesel generators the size of, 3 buses, the size of 6 buses all stacked together in a giant rectangle. All right, massive diesel generators that are huge, that they're just dumping diesel and they're dumping natural gas into to keep the lights on. And that's where a lot of our power comes from. And this is why you should have your own power generation, your own generator, all right, and your own solar too. All right, this is something we're working on right now, trying to get solar for our travel trailer. All right, we're working on that very soon. And one thing really quick, if you are working on going off grid, getting your own property, all these things, make sure you check on the county laws. You need to call the county before you buy any property. Give them the exact parcel number, call the zoning, call the coding, call the building department, all these different departments, call the water authority, all these different things. You need to talk to them and get the go that you can be off grid, you can have solar, you can build your own whatever to certain codes, or there's no code. All these different things you need to check into before you make the leap and go fully off grid. We've looked into properties for years and years and years, and we've never found the perfect property because we always get blocked by the code or something like that. It always happens. There's always some weird regulation or rule that's just unrealistic that prevents you from being fully off grid or living in your travel trailer or RV. There's a lot of restrictions on that all over the US. So make sure you look into that. You can't just go out on any piece of land in your RV or travel trailer. You really have to look into the codes and figure out exactly what's going on there. And they're making it harder, it seems like, to be off grid in more and more locations, more states, more counties, more jurisdictions. Let's get into what's happening here. Powerful solar flare erupts from hidden sunspot, sparking widespread radio blackouts. All right, this happened just a few days ago. There was a massive solar flare, a massive coronal mass ejection, and it was a hidden sunspot. All right, I've talked about how they can create artificial auroras and artificial manipulations of the ionosphere that the sun would normally do. Through its ejections and through its radiation, they can manipulate the ionosphere with devices like HAARP to charge it. That's essentially what they're doing. They're charging the ionosphere with these high-powered frequencies and mimicking the sun in certain areas, all right? And that's how they are able to manipulate the weather. And the clouds are key because they spray silver iodide in the clouds, and silver is the most electrically conductive metal on Earth, all right? And these EMP situations are going to increase. These CMEs are going to increase, and these solar flares are going to increase as well, because we actually are moving into a grand solar maximum situation. So the Earth has these, or the sun has these cycles as well, where the sun can become more excited, becomes more active, and it has low points. And we're entering this grand solar maximum point where there actually are going to be real CMEs, coronal mass ejections. There will be more of them. There will be more solar flares, and these can take out satellites. These can completely fry the grid, fry the transformers, fry the substations, and this could almost be impossible to replace in certain situations, especially with all the supply chain issues that we have. But it could take decades to completely replace the grid if a massive coronal event happened with the sun, whether it's real or artificial. All right, they can create artificial auroral with radio waves. Admittedly, I've showed the documents 100 times on here. All right, so it was powerful enough to knock out widespread radio blackouts. This happened just a few days ago in the past week, and this was from a, quote, hidden sunspot, apparently. So these things could happen anytime, and that's also another major threat to wipe out the grid. We're also getting dozens and dozens of mainstream news articles just saying we're going to have blackouts. The grid is going to black out. I made a video last week talking about how FERC was warning, the Federal Electric Reliability Corp. All right, it's a federal government organization, and they were warning how the grid is in a, quote, crisis. And he was saying he doesn't use the word crisis lightly, and he doesn't really use that word, but the grid is in a, quote, crisis. That's what he was warning of. And now NERC has come out as well, which is under FERC. It's just the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. All right, there's a federal version, and then NERC is under it, which monitors the states directly. So the FERC monitors like federal grid infrastructure, and then NERC monitors state grid infrastructure directly for the states individually, and they are giving major warnings all over mainstream news. This is a headline out of the Washington Post, one of the biggest mainstream news aggregators in the world. Fresh blackout threats emerge as power grid faces a stressful summer. This is out of the Washington Post, right? And they're saying, quote, the system is close to its edge, said John Mora, the Director of Reliability Assessment and Performance Analysis at NERC. Quote, there needs to be more done to bolster the system's resilience. Quote, the system is close to its edge. That is not something you want to hear from a federal government organization that monitors the electricity grid for states individually. And they are warning that California is at risk. Wyoming is at risk. Obviously, Texas, we already covered, is at major risk, all right? They are also warning, though, that Arizona is at risk. Tennessee is at risk. North Carolina, South Carolina, and they're even saying parts of New England are at risk. All right, this is going to cover the whole country. Nobody is going to be spared from these blackouts that they're warning of. There's also major warnings that El Nino is going to become a lot more active this year and cause major storms and major heat waves. And this is on top of the geoengineering and weather manipulation that we already are seeing right now. So they could amplify these natural weather patterns and make them even more destructive and more chaotic and wipe out the grid. All right. This happens in Florida all the time when there's a major hurricane, there's major power outages. They have to ship in all these transformers, and all of these electric companies come from out of state to fix Florida's grid whenever there's a major hurricane. But what happens when it's when there's a dozen states that this is happening to? There's not going to be anyone to come fix them. When 100 million people are under this, there's not going to be enough transformers, there's not going to be enough substation equipment to bring in to fix it. All right. And this is coming out of Bloomberg, another mainstream news article warning that these blackouts are coming. And they're even saying Ontario isn't safe, all the way up there in Ontario. I'm telling you, they're saying New England isn't safe either. They're under blackout warnings as well. And they're saying that, this is out of Bloomberg, quote, risk of summer blackouts stretches into U.S. Southeast for first time. They're saying Tennessee and Ontario join the regions at outage risk from heat waves, and the western U.S. power transfers threatened by high temperatures. All right, so they're saying western states, Tennessee, Ontario, and they're warning of North Carolina and South Carolina here too. You can see here, NERC found that the number of regions with a, quote, elevated risk of power shortages has increased as temperatures rise and power plants retire. They're even saying they're retiring these power plants, and this is part of the problem, and they're just continuing with it. Pennsylvania just closed their largest one. Colorado is closing their largest one. All these states are shutting down their power plants. Why are they doing this? And they're also warning of energy crisis at the same time. Doesn't make sense to me. So elevated risk due to temperature rise and power plant retires. In a worst case combination, a severe heat and unexpected generation outage, the western United States, most of Texas, and the Carolinas face a heightened risk of rolling power blackouts, NERC said. Quote, the system is closer to the edge. More needs to be done. They keep saying that the system is on the edge, all right? We need to be prepared for a major event to happen. And they were saying these blackouts are most likely to occur. They were even saying this on the news in Texas. I just remember this because I watched this video from local news there, and they're saying, hey, look out for blackouts to occur around 8 to 9 p.m. because the sun's going down, the solar is at low power generation at that point because the sun's not even hitting it anymore. And that's when we could see blackouts because people are at home, people are watching their TVs, people are cooking, people are, vacuuming, cleaning their homes, whatever. They're home for the night. Everyone's at home using their power. And it's also when the sun goes down. So we could start seeing monitored situations. This is already happening in the UK. I've made multiple videos on this, how this was happening over winter in the UK, how they were paying people to not use their electricity. They were giving them credits. They're saying, hey, we will pay you $50 a month if you don't use your electricity between these hours, between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. All right. I don't know the exact times they were saying. I don't remember exactly, but that was the concept. And they were paying people to not use their own electricity. All right. And it's going to start out voluntarily, but then things will start being forced. And they already have the smart grid on top of us. They already have smart meters on everyone's phone that's connected to the internet. And that also sends out very dangerous, high powered frequencies as well. That's how they communicate with the other smart meters. And that's how they communicate with the main system for their electricity is they send out these high-powered jolt frequencies to communicate, and you're just getting those absorbed right into your body, right into your home as well. And it's also generating this high-powered magnetic field around your home as well. So all this infrastructure is already in place, but the main point of the smart meters are they already can track what you're using. I remember my electricity bill in Florida when I had Duke Energy, all right? They would break down, they're like, oh, this much for your AC. You're using this many kilowatts for your AC every month, and this much is your fridge. And they already know exactly what I'm using and how much, because they can tell, oh, there's a 4,000 watt spike or whatever, and then it's running at 3,000 watts. All right, that's an AC unit. All right, there's a 2,000 watt spike, and then it's running at 1,800 watts. That's a refrigerator unit. Like, they know exactly what the appliance already is, and they do it by these smart meters. I had an old home. It had no new high tech. It had no thermostat, no anything, but it had a smart meter. Old outlets, everything was old in it. Old home in Florida, but it had a smart meter, and it could read exactly what I was using. And this already happened in like Denver, Colorado last summer. They took control of people's thermostats, their smart meters, and you couldn't turn your AC down during these heat waves. You can only turn it to like 80. You couldn't turn it down any further to like 70 or 75 to cool your house down during these heat waves. You could only go to like 80 or whatever they set it to. They already have this grid in place. And once these things start collapsing, they're going to start not being voluntary. It's going to be forced. They're going to force you to do these things. So get off the grid now. Get a generator now. Get some kind of solar now. Even just a little phone solar thing. That's how I started out. That was my first little solar, was getting that, putting it in my bug out bag. It's a little phone solar thing, so I can just plug my phone into it and charge my phone. That's my first ever solar, all right? So get something now. Get prepared now. Get stocked up on food now. Get stocked up on seeds now. We just planted a bunch of seeds. We're clearing out a bunch of sagebrush. You can see all this brush out here. We're clearing it out for a big garden. We're going to get a pad for our RV. We're going to get animals. We're going to fence it in out here. We're getting a septic system. We're getting a well. We're getting water tanks. We're getting all this good stuff because they are warning us. And this is how it works. They have to tell us what they're doing, and it's up to you to decide to make a decision and to act. And you don't have to go all in like I'm doing, but at least make decisions every day, work towards a goal, and get a little bit closer to your goal. I've been into this stuff for a decade, all right? I've been gardening, doing all this stuff, working on it. I grew my first plants a decade ago, all right? So this is a big culmination for me. This didn't just happen overnight. So just start small. Start growing something now. Get your hands dirty now. Get your hands in the dirt now. Get some chickens. I started out with 2 chickens. 2 chickens, that's it. And I had those chickens for years. One of them lived 8 years, and it didn't even die. It got attacked by something. All right? I don't even know what I got attacked by, but I got attacked. All right? I found a trail of feathers, got attacked by something. I was being stupid. I normally have them in their coop, but I had her separated in a little cage, and it wasn't secure or anything, and she just got attacked out there, right? That's how it is out here. Things could happen. That's why you got to protect your chickens, protect your animals, but start small. I started off with 2 chickens, all right? One of them lived 8 years. Just start small, guys. And I started off in the middle of in the city on 0.1 acres, all right? It was like 0.1 acres. It was like 5,000 square feet, all right? So that's around like 0.1 acres, maybe a little bit more, maybe like 0.1.5, 0.15 acres, something like that, all right? Not even 0.2 acres. That's how I started out. I had a greenhouse, chickens, all this stuff, and now we're on 10 acres and fully off-grid and building and rebuilding, all right? I've moved multiple times. I've built homesteads multiple times, farms multiple times. I've moved a bunch. I've done this multiple times. So things are a little bit second nature for me, but but just get started now. Start today, start moving towards your goal, and I hope I can inspire you. I'm going to start showing you guys what I'm doing on here, these projects. We're going to have a lot of projects going in the next month. I'm going to be showing you guys as I go along. I will still be keeping you guys updated on this news. I'm just going to have both because it's related. Things are happening and you need to take action. It's related and it's should be your motivation. All right, so please hit it up down there for me, guys. It really helps the channel. It helps to get this video out, and I am super blessed. All these new subs I've been getting, all these new people that have been supporting the channel, and all the people that have watched since the very beginning, all you guys have made this possible for me and have blessed me. All right, so thank you guys so much. Please hit it up down there for me. Please have a big old blessed day with your family. Spend some time with your family, with your animals. That's what it's all about. Getting out here to nature, getting your hands dirty, and being with your family, and just living life, enjoying life. This stuff's fun. It's fun to be out here and be off grid. It's fun to get dirty and dig the dirt out and build stuff. It's fun. It's fun. That's what life's about. All right. So thank you guys so much. And I hope you have a big old blessed day.